We are poorer than every single US state.
Pretty much everybody in the UK, and pretty much everybody who's visited the UK recently, has the sense that nothing's working. Compare the UK to the US.
Britain is now poorer than Mississippi, which is the poorest US state. That's how bad it is.
If I could describe the difference between British people and American people, it would be this. Imagine there are two workers digging a hole in the ground. They're on a construction site. You've got two are British and the two are American. A car drives past. It's a Rolls Royce. The Americans will look at that car and they will say to themselves, damn, that's impressive. How can I get there one day? Or I will get there one day. The British workers will say, you fucking posh twat, you don't deserve that car.
We are poorer than every single US state. When voters were asked to guess where the UK would rank in terms of GDP per capita if it were a US state, gave on average the response of 7th. The actual answer is 51st. Many people in Britain today do not fully grasp how far we have been fading. People, of course, have a general sense that our economy has not been growing strongly enough for some time, but too many tend to think we are still much richer than most of our peers. And the fact is, we are not.
Pretty much everybody in the UK, and pretty much everybody who's visited the UK recently, has the sense that nothing's working. Compare the UK to the US, and a middle-income American, their equivalent person in the UK is really badly off. Maybe 30%, 40% less rich, much less productive, much less output in terms of how many days they work and how much they produce. It's not crazy at all to say I'd rather have more time with my kids than more time, more money and more time at work. But the UK doesn't actually do that. Americans could stop working at the end of September, on the 22nd of September, and they'd still earn more money than the UK, than Britons working for the whole year.
UK is poorer than Mississippi. Have you ever seen how Mississippi looks like? Mississippi is well structured, clean. The apartments are there, the roads are cleaned. And now, Britain, UK is poorer than that.
Britain is poorer than every state in America. Did you hear about this? This news is going viral, and I too am surprised to hear it. I'm a Brit. I've been living in America for 10 years. People were thinking, or British people were thinking, that actually Britain probably ranks, if it was a state in America, maybe the 7th richest state in America is how they would see Britain in it. No, the GDP per capita ranks Britain as below 50 in terms of state, poorer than Mississippi. Britain is poorer than every US state. That comes as a huge surprise to me, but it gives credence to the reason why I'm here in the first place, which is the abundance of opportunity. And I believe there is an abundance of opportunity because there is a higher propensity for risk taking, and there is greater volumes and abundance of optimism and positivity in terms of you can go and chase your dreams and do what you want to do and be who you are. I believe that is championed more so in the US than what I was feeling when I was living in the UK. So the American dream, whilst people put kind of tangible things to it like a lawn and a house, it's just way more of a mindset. The American dream is be who you want to be, stripped from fear, with relentless optimism, passion and energy, and there's going to be more people that are willing to back you with that mindset than there are anywhere else in the world.
If I could describe the difference between British people and American people, it would be this. Imagine there are two workers digging a hole in the ground. They're on a construction site. You've got two are British and the two are American. A car drives past. It's a Rolls Royce. The Americans will look at that car and they will say to themselves, damn, that's impressive. How can I get there one day? Or I will get there one day. The British workers will say, you fucking posh twat, you don't deserve that car, and one day you're going to lose it. Now, argue what you want. You could say that the Americans are delusional, that they're overly optimistic, and that the American dream isn't real because statistically, the majority of people in low incomes don't progress into the riches. But you could also argue that the British outlook is overly pessimistic, that it's defeatist, and that if you don't have a positive vision and an aspiration to do better, you're obviously not going to get better. And of course, we're talking in generalizations of culture here, but if there is one thing that I will say with this, is that when you see Americans, they are so much more optimistic, entrepreneurial, and willing to take the risks that will help them improve their lives. Whereas British people are far more likely to complain and do nothing, and that is why you should get on TikTok, because you can get paid for complaining, monetize your socialization. But anyway, the reason I tell you this analogy is because I was told it the other day by a British guy who spent 15 years of his youth growing up in America, and he said himself that he has the American attitude towards business, and for him it meant exactly what I've just said: more optimism and more entrepreneurial mindset. And although the British small c conservatism and risk aversion can serve its purpose, it's another thing that we could learn. We could learn from the Americans to go for things more, because when you take more opportunities and when you fail more, as a fundamental rule of business and entrepreneurship, you will learn from it. And as a general mindset, if you have more belief in your abilities and your life improving, you are going to live in a mindset that is more fulfilled. When we have purpose, when we have goals that we are working towards, we feel better, even if there's a lot of struggle and failure in the process to get there. So even if American humor is lacking and everything gets turned into a business opportunity, there is something that British people can learn from them. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to be telling you more stories about the interactions I've had with people from around the world and sharing what I've learned about their culture. And if you want to hear that, drop.
UK is poorer than Mississippi. Have you ever seen how Mississippi looks like? Mississippi is well structured, clean. The apartments are there, the roads are cleaned. And now, Britain, UK is poorer than that. The budget of Mississippi alone is way greater and better than UK.
The minimum wage in the United States is $7.25 an hour, or $2.13 plus tips. It's a third of what it is here in the UK. Okay.
But you have twice the disposable income that we have. Your median wage is 1.5 to 2 times what our median wage is. We're now a poor country relative to the US. And even though your minimum wage is terrible and horrific and inhuman, however it's magically done it, your country and your citizens are so much richer than ours.
Yeah, except if you consider that out of that median wage, you have to take $20,000 a year to pay for healthcare, right? Like,
I think adjusted, it's still you're 30% better, even adjusted.
I think if you look at the AIC OECD, it would be interesting. We might be able to look it up. I can't remember, but I bet you it's about 10% different.
Even when you subtract out-of-pocket healthcare costs and insurance premiums, the average American worker still takes home significantly more money than the average UK worker.
Yeah.
The average US salary is around $74,000. The average UK salary is around roughly $50,000. Americans pay heavily for healthcare. The average employee in America pays about $6,000 to $8,000 a year in premiums and out-of-pocket costs. Brits do not pay for healthcare because of the NHS. If a US worker makes $74,000 and spends $8,000 on healthcare, they are at $66,000 before relatively low taxes. The UK worker starts at $52,000 before relatively high taxes. The bottom line is the gap in base salaries and tax rates is simply too large for UK free healthcare to close. The US wins on pure disposable income per person.
Yeah, there's no doubt the US has had a much more successful economy than the UK. Brexit being, a catastrophe.
Can I push back on one thing though, with the minimum wage or this?
Yeah.
The companies that hollowed out the middle class are big tech companies, big finance companies, those mega corporations, and I agree with you, they can afford to pay their workers more money.
Britain is now poorer than Mississippi, which is the poorest US state. That's how bad it is. And that is, Blair is one of the central figures in creating this absolute mess.
What's your relationship with Rishi now?
Equally unpositive.
A genuine question, why are the salaries in the UK so low? Every time I have to hear about an American salary, my mouth drops. My jaw is open. Pause. Heart sinks to my stomach, realizing how underpaid we are. These guys are talking about 100k a year as a truck driver, 200k a year as a lawyer, as a doctor. We're lucky if we get a quarter of that. Even the numbers don't make sense. How are Americans just on another level economically? 76k a year GDP per capita. Ours is 30k less. Where's the money going? Why is our economy so shit? And this is per capita. Don't come to me, they have more people. Yeah, you bastard. This is per capita. Economics 101. Idiot. So sorry. I'm just frustrated that when I go into work, my salary is probably going to be like 30% less compared to the same guy doing the same job in America. How's that fair? I'd get it if it was like with some war-torn third world country, fair enough, then innit? Like salaries are going to be lower. We're both developed first world countries.
One thing I've learned having lived in the US and the UK is that the American dream is real, but the British dream does not exist. I was shocked to learn that the average salary of a student coming out of university here is 30 to 36k pounds, which if you convert to US dollars is only 50k, whereas in the US it's around 80k. And I myself was making six figures coming out of college. But the reason why I say the American dream exists and the British dream is not real is because even if you're making less than six figures in the US, at least you have line of sight or progression to achieve that eventually, even if you're a truck driver or work at a retail store like Target or Walmart. Whereas in the UK, I've seen people work at the same company for 15 to 20 years and not even get to 2/3 of 100k. But even if your salary increases here in the UK, you're just getting taxed even more. So you're not actually taking home any of the money that you've made. And that's the problem in the UK. It is a system that does not reward hard work. And that's why so many people are moving to cities like Dubai where you don't get taxed anything. So unless you're working in some high-paying job like tech, consulting, finance, or law, I really struggle to see how you're even making a living to pay for your family, pay for your kids' tuition, etc., etc. And the problem is, the system is never going to change. The UK cannot afford to lower taxes, and companies here cannot afford to be paying their employees more money. So that is the sad reality of living in the UK.
I don't feel proud being British at all.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
If I could afford it, I'd emigrate. I think this country's disgusting. How it treats people, its pensioners, its war victims, a lot. It's disgusting, yeah. Their view is we can help everybody in the world. No one can help everyone in the world, but you're not helping your own first. Hence why it causes racism, it causes so many more problems across the board when it's the government's fault, not the people who live here. They're forgetting about pensioners who have already been through a war, fought their way to get their freedom, what they living on, £60 a week, if that. It's disgusting, absolutely disgusting. And they're saying, oh yeah, we're taking all these other people from these other countries, blah, 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 blah. And I get, yeah, they need help, but how can you help other people when you can't even help your own country? You need to get your own country in order, then you can help other people.
See, ladies and gentlemen, listening to these British voices, you can immediately sense their frustrations. This isn't an outsider criticizing Britain. These are British citizens themselves, talking openly about the challenges they believe their country is facing. One British woman, this one, makes a heartfelt appeal. She says Britain should look after its own people first. She speaks about pensioners, people who spend decades working, paying taxes, building the country. Yet in her own view, many of them are now struggling with the rising cost of living. She believes they deserve better. Then of course, another complainer, another British person, makes a statement that has sparked debate. He points to economic comparison, suggesting that by one measure, even Mississippi, often described as America's poorest state, now rivals or exceeds the United Kingdom. For him, that comparison symbolizes how much Britain has fallen behind economically. Whether people agree with his conclusion or not, it is clear he believes Britain needs to rebuild its economy and restore confidence. Then another speaker turns his attention to the United States. He argues that one reason America continues to attract investment is because businesses have confidence in its institutions. In his view, when people sign contracts, they expect those contracts to be honored. When employees work, they expect to receive their wages on the agreed payday. And when entrepreneurs invest, they believe there are legal systems in place to protect property and resolve disputes. He believes that confidence encourages people to take risks, start companies, employ workers, and expand businesses. He also argues that Americans' economic strength comes from decades of innovation, manufacturing, technology, agriculture, finance, and entrepreneurship. Whether you agree with every point or not, it's easy to understand why these speakers admire those qualities. Because confidence is one of the foundations of any successful economy. When people trust institutions, they are more willing to invest, more willing to hire, more willing to build. And perhaps that's what these British people are really talking about. Not just America, but aspirations. They want to see Britain become stronger, more competitive. Another thing is, she has mentioned about pensioners. Help your people first. Look at what US is doing. US is putting Americans first ahead of everyone else. Look at how it's not like USA do not want people in the United States of America. It's not that they don't want people to visit that country. They want people, but they want people to come the right way. They want people to come the legal way. USA cannot contain the whole world. Yes, it's a beautiful country. It's a nice place with different cultures from different parts of the world. But if you want to come to the United States of America, please use the legal means, use the legal way, okay? America comes first. They have to take care of their own needs first of all, before everyone else comes in. And that is what makes USA great, okay? Pensioners are well taken care of. In some other countries, pensioners don't get anything. They lose everything.